good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this Jira Service Management, or JSM for beginners. Chad, I think you meant kudos with a K, my friend. Unless there's a new term all the hip and cool people are using, I will follow your lead on how to be interesting. But do want to welcome folks. We're going to give people a couple of minutes to drop on in. I know this is early for at least one of us, so I appreciate you all joining me at this time. And I will say I'm going to start having some sessions a little bit later in the day after we get through August. It is still school break here in the United States, and that makes it harder for me to do things during the day because I got to help watch kids. Anyway, enough about that. And on to Jira. Today, this session is going to cover the absolute bare bones basics about Jira Service Management. I will do my best to not assume that folks listening know anything about JSM. And the intention with that is to help ensure that folks who are in a situation like mine early, can get that step up and can skip all the frustration. Nope, that's what you meant. All right, thank you, Chad. Yes, we can't edit YouTube chat, and I'm also, if you can let me know you can hear me real quick. Liz, good to see you. All right. We got some folks trickling in here. I'll give folks another minute, and then we will skip straight into our slides. Also, this is going to be recorded. It will be available on this YouTube channel until the heat death of the universe. So if you miss it or have to come back later, you'll find it right down in the bottom. Qdoba, I believe, was a sandwich chain in the United States back in the day, and I was sad to see it go. All right, folks, we are going to get started. We're going to do this usual mix I have of some slides for things like terminology and level setting, and then we'll just jump in and out of Jira Service Management to see these concepts and ideas live. If you have a Jira Service Management account and you can comfortably follow along, it can't hurt for you to also get hands-on experience. So if you have two screens or can do a little window, that could be beneficial. A quick way of introduction, my name is Rob. I've had my career in IT actually since before college, or since just before university, starting out as a person who brought you your help desk. So that's how I came up through my career, was learning help desk things. Used different ticketing systems throughout that, and ended up using Jira about 12 years ago now, in 2013. Now, I had to learn all Atlassian products on the fly. I learned by doing. There was no training. There was no enablement. There was no YouTube like this that helped me figure it out. Or if there was, I didn't know it existed. And so that was good, interesting for me because I got to learn a system by doing, but also insanely frustrating. It got to the point where a system admin pulled me aside and said, hey, you're breaking stuff so much, I'm going to show you how it works so you stop breaking stuff. And I got super lucky that person came and helped me out. And that's why I do these sessions, to help other people who are exactly like me at that stage avoid a lot of that pain and frustration. That said, getting hands-on and learning by doing is also really important. So make sure you're taking time to go practice and play around with the system. I enjoy YouTube. Again, this is recorded, so you'll be able to catch it later or share it with folks. But it's hard to interact. Please use the chat. It's going to be right over there, over my left shoulder by default. So please use it to talk. You'll see some of my regulars. I'll call out Chad, Liz, and Tushar. We'll just be chatting. But please use that to ask questions. Please use that to point out something that looks incorrect. Please let that know if my audio drops, something like that. But also interact with each other. Those three are great about helping others out. But if you have an idea or a way you can help someone else in the chat, let them know. And I also do this professionally. I'm a professional content creator and trainer. So you can support me in a lot of different ways, and I'd really appreciate that. Easiest is to subscribe to the channel and then hit the like button. The like button helps other people find this video. So not only will it help the channel out, it will also make it easier for others to learn. So I'll remind you a couple times throughout this to hit that like button and share other ways you can support me. One way is be like Chad. His name is in green. He's got a little star because he's a channel member. He's a coffee sponsor, and when I meet him, he'll get coffee, and he gets some fun things in the chat and early access to videos. So that's how we're going to interact. I'll also pop up some quizzes every once in a while, and I'll do one right now just to kind of practice. It can be a question like a 1 to 4. If it's a question 1 to 4, 1 is you don't know that thing very well, or the high is 4. Tushar, is it? I've always thought it was professional. Ooh. I need to update some of my training then, huh? So these polls are another way we can interact, and I'll drop questions in here from time to time just to help us communicate without you having to type. So a quick way of agenda, we'll talk about just what is Jira Service Management in general, and then we'll jump into use cases. Why does a group want to use JSM, Jira Service Management? It's important to understand these because we tend to think JSM is only used by IT teams, and this is a stereotype, and it's not necessarily wrong. In many organizations, IT is going to be the only group using JSM. However, any group that needs to collect requests for assistance and act on them can benefit from using JSM. I started using JSM working on an HR team, human resources, because we had to collect questions about benefits or employment or onboarding. Then we'll talk about the types of users that exist in JSM, and then parts of Jira Service Management, and then we'll go through a ticket lifecycle. I'll see how far we can get down this path of someone needing help, the ticket going in, someone picking it up, someone working on it, someone adjusting the project, all of these steps. These are all important because it will give you a good foundation and a good grounding in concept and terminology, and that will help you later when you go look up something or ask someone for help. So just knowing the right terms is going to help you. And then we'll go back and forth between our slides and then Jira Service Management in a demo box. So we'll bounce back and forth between these things. So kind of a similar question, just curious, have you used a ticketing system before? The poll will stay up about being familiar with JSM, and so far most of us are not, which honestly is really good to see. 70% have a 1 or a 2, and this is good. This means that the people who can benefit from this are here. There's also some folks with 3 or 4. That's also good. That means you can help out these folks who are not as familiar, maybe concerned that they've been forced to use this thing, or they're just curious and want to learn. Now, these are all my definitions. Atlassian, I'm sure, has a wonderful definition that they put everywhere. But Jira Service Management is an online work tracking tool. It is you could say it's a flavor of Jira or a type that's focused on collecting requests for help and enabling someone, an agent, to resolve them. And it can help with both internal and with external requests. So it's not just for internal use. It's not just, oh, Liz and I are on the same company and we help each other. It could be, hey, Liz and I build an app and we sell that to people, and those people need to put in requests or report bugs. So depending on how it's set up and depending on how you need to use it, it can either be internal only, external, or both. And this is something else that I tend to forget about JSM. I I came up through my career using it internally, and so that has blinded me to external use cases. And this was hard for me when I took some exams because there were questions around external use cases that I couldn't easily answer because I hadn't used it that way and I hadn't thought about it that way. So keep in mind, it's something that can be used internally or externally, and it can be used by many teams. Again, stereotypically, IT, information technology, is using this because we think of the IT help desk. And that's not bad or wrong. We just want to be careful it doesn't prevent us from seeing its use elsewhere. As I mentioned, human resources teams can benefit from it. Engineering teams can benefit. Recruiting teams, legal teams, marketing. You name it, I can probably find a way for Jira Service Management to help a team manage their work. Now, of course, like any tool, you have to figure out what's the best way to use it, or is it the most appropriate tool? However, it can support a wide range of groups. So with information technology, again, that stereotypical use case, you'll see IT teams using it for things like password resets or hardware requests. I need a new laptop. Maybe I was just hired and I can't get into my computer properly. In my experience, it was, hey, go deliver a piece of equipment to someone or go troubleshoot a program on someone's laptop. So there's many different ways IT could use it. I tend to pick on the IT support desk. It could also be used for incident management. A website goes offline and I have to figure out why. Or maybe knowledge management. They want to collect information to add to their knowledge base. So these are just some examples, but one way that IT can use it and one way that I've seen it used fairly prolifically or quite a bit through my career. Next is HR, or human resources. Again, this is how I learned how to use JSM. I was at a big multinational company, 30,000 workers, and they had 20 people who just responded to the incoming tickets. And they would get 100,000 tickets a year, and they used Jira Service Management to support that because they had people all over the world putting in questions about policies. Hey, how does this vacation policy work? Onboarding. I'm a new hire but didn't get my orientation kit. Compliance. How are we doing with our reporting? And so Jira Service Management gave folks the ability in HR to support all of the things that an HR team needs to do. Now, if you want to learn more about how Atlassian products can support HR, this Thursday, I've got one on Confluence and human resources. So another tool and another way the Atlassian stack can help support human resources. Engineering teams, so software engineering, can also benefit from this, collecting bug reports or incidents or feature requests. So the point here isn't, use it exactly like this. The point here is Jira Service Management is a tool that generically allows us to collect requests for help, manage those requests, and then close them. And if you can identify a use case at your organization that fits that loose definition, it's worth taking a look at Jira Service Management. I can't guarantee it's the best tool. However, I can guarantee it can support that process, and I've seen it do it at a huge scale. Again, 30,000 workers, hundreds of thousands of tickets, 50 plus countries. This slide means we're going to teleport into Jira Service Management. I am specifically using a cloud premium instance, and so that will give us some features that may not be available in the free or standard. I'll do my best to call out what's only in premium. The biggest thing to note is anything about Atlassian Intelligence, or AI, or Rovo. It's the agenic, the agents that run around, would be in premium or higher right now. But otherwise, everything I show you should be the same in all versions of cloud. The concepts will also apply to data center. However, it will look different because we're in cloud and it had some updates. So quick way of orientation. At the top, we have this search bar. Please use the search bar. They've made it much easier to see. It used to be hiding in the corner. You can also access it by hitting the / button on your keyboard. I didn't know a search bar existed for a while. That made it very hard to find things. But with this, you can just type in keywords and that'll filter it down. But you can also filter by all these other things here on the side. And I'll talk more about what some of these terms are as we go. But just keep in mind there is a search. Hit / to get to it. Makes it much easier to get to things. On the left, we have our navigation menu. And this is a newer update. I think they finally pushed it live last month. Depending on who you talk to, it's great or it's really annoying. I find it challenging because it used to be on the top. So you might hear me complain about it only because all of my habits are to go up here to go find it. However, it's how we move around Jira. And I have these different options. The For You page is something else that I never really used that can be beneficial. It will keep track of where you've been recently, so the projects you've opened, as well as like maybe things you've worked on, items you've viewed, things that are assigned to you, starred items, and any boards you might work on. And don't worry, we'll talk about a lot of these terms. But keep in mind that the For You page is typically your homepage in Jira. So you can click on the Jira icon in the top left. And it's a great way to remember, hey, where was I? What have I been doing? So if you come back from work on the weekend, this will keep track of what you've been up to. It can make it much easier to get back. Also, the three folks chatting in the chat are part of my Discord community. I'll drop a link. They get into some great, very specific discussions. I think they're arguing over the font used in Jira right now, which I absolutely love. Feel free to join us in Discord for more in-depth, fascinating discussion around Atlassian. The neat thing about this sidebar, though, is you can customize it. So you're not stuck with it just looking how it is. You can click on Customize Sidebar, and then just tick off boxes to hide or to show things. So one of the first things I show people now is go do this. Get rid of the ones that your team doesn't use. If your team doesn't use goals, don't show it. It's just going to take up space and bug you. So this is Jira Service Management, and this is what an agent sees. We'll talk about agents in a minute. Basically, they're the people who work on the work items, the tickets. Customers, however, see it differently. Typically, customers access it from a thing called a portal, and we'll dig more into this in a moment. But this is basically a menu of what my team offers. And this is set up by someone who works at the company. But I can come here, maybe it's not called example of team managed project, maybe it's called IT help desk, and I can see, oh, there's a group of computer things, and oh, I need new software. And so this portal will help guide a customer to the right form to fill in to get the help they need. Now, there's a lot more going on here. This can do things like connect to an AI bot to help find someone get information they need. It can serve up knowledge base articles to help deflect tickets or educate folks. And it can vary in terms of what information we're asking based on our team's needs. But this is the basic way work items, tickets, get into the system. Someone comes to this portal, they select the type of thing they need help with, and then they enter the ticket. And so this portal can be exposed externally. As I mentioned before, I have customers all over the world, or I can keep it internal only. I can say, hey, only people at my company get to use it. And this is just how they get in. Quick teleport back. All right. So another question, I'll drop another poll in here. I just want to make sure I get a screenshot of this lovely monster. But basically, how comfortable are y'all with Jira JSM permissions? And also, I'll encourage folks, please drop your questions. I'll do my best to have specific question time. I'll just ask for them, but please don't wait for me to ask. If I'm doing something and you're like, hey, what's happening here? Please drop in a comment in the chat. And I'll do my best not to have typos, but I'm known for misspelling some words, like doubt was one I think that really tripped me up. So just a quick poll of 1 to 4. 1, you have no clue how they work. 4, you're very comfortable. Access and permissions are important to understand. We don't have to be super experts. There's usually someone at your organization called a Jira admin who can be a super expert or is expected to know more. However, as people just using it, we need to understand the different types of people who use Jira, how they access it, and what they can do. So first are just 3 types of users. And I've briefly mentioned these as we went. We've got customers, we've got agents, and we've got admins. Most of the people using JSM are going to be customers. The next biggest group will be agents, but there might not be many agents. And that's because agents are the people working on the tickets. And the last one is the admins. These are the people setting up Jira to help support it. We're mostly going to talk about agents today because that typically is the people who have the most struggles and are expected to use it the most. But I'll also describe and show you what customers do and a tiny bit about admins. I won't dig too deep into the admin side. Customers are kind of what they sound like. They're the people who your team supports or serves. Now, a customer usually, well, always, a customer has permissions to enter a request. Tushar, my friend, we're not going to get too deep into them, though. So, again, this is intended for beginners. I'm chuckling at Tushar's comment here. As you start to use Jira, either Service Management or the other one, permissions become more and more important because they can get more and more complicated and more important for ensuring the way to use the team, the system, sorry. What I'm hearing, Tushar and Chad, is an in-depth dive into JSM permissions. I will see if I can tee that up for you both. So customers enter requests, and they typically use that portal I showed you. We're going to go back and look at that portal again. Now, that portal can be configured by the project, but it's intended to guide someone down a path. Start very broad, I need IT help, or HR help, or marketing help, and then narrow it down. Ooh, it's a question about hardware. Oh, it's a question about policies. Ooh, it's a question about campaigns. And then specific. I need a new password. My vacation policy, the campaign from October. So that helps guide people down to find the right request that they can enter, so then an agent can work on it. Now, the customer's job is to put in the ticket and then to respond. So it's not just put it in and walk away. Sometimes you're going to come back and you need to ask for more information, or you have an update, or you need them to take some action. So customers are also supposed to get information from Jira and then also respond back. And so it's a back and forth. It's really a team effort between the customer, the person entering the work item, the ticket, and then the agent, the person who works on the ticket. Now, one thing I haven't talked about is licensing. How do you pay for Jira Service Management? Customers are free. You can have everyone in the world be a customer of your Jira project. Although I wonder, there must be a theoretical limitation. However, regardless of that number, you don't pay for customers. So everyone in your company can be a customer. That's just for free. you pay for the agents to access it. So if Chad, Liz, Tushar, and I are agents, my company would pay for 4 licenses, even if 100 people were customers. And agents are the people who are really using Jira. They are the people who will go in and use the different features in Jira like queues and work items and automations and workflows and transitions. Don't worry, I'll talk about a lot of those terms in a moment, to help support the customer. And depending on how your organization is set up, they'll do this in different ways. However, they also have some responsibilities. For example, going in and commenting on tickets, updating fields as they gain information, working with other teams to resolve it. Everything else around what we expect someone in IT to be doing. I'm going to take a quick coffee break. I've got a refill from my thermos. But while I do that, if you like this for any reason, just hit that little like button. That'll help me out. Again, I do this professionally. This is my actual job. And then it helps other people find it too. Tushar, I was going to say you read my mind with the JSM license. So again, our agents are the people who work on tickets, and I was an agent when I first started using this. Now, the third role or type of user you'll see is an admin. And for the purposes of this training, there's different kinds of admins, but really right here we're talking about a project admin. The project admin is a person who configures the Jira you're using. They will do things like turn on or off features. They will do things like troubleshoot problems with permissions. They will do things like support agents and show them what's going on. So admins, this shouldn't be controversial. Admins don't just set up Jira. They're also experts in how it should be used or process or helping train the team on the best way to use the tool. This was also the first role I had in Jira. When I joined, I was made both an agent and an admin. And this made it insanely confusing because I knew nothing about nothing. And I was expected to help support a group of 60 people use Jira Service Management successfully. And it was really confusing because I didn't even understand how the tickets worked. So we've got our customers. They put in the work items or tickets. I've got agents. They work on those tickets. And then I've got admins who maintain and manage everything. Tushar's got a question here. I'm simplifying this a bit, Tushar. So for other folks within Jira, you have different levels of admins. The highest level in Jira is just called a Jira admin. And so that's what Tushar's question is. Jira admins are different than project admins. So in this context, we're talking about project admins. But keep in mind, there's a level above Jira admin. And there's even a few levels above that. But for beginners, for someone just learning to use it, just understand that there's a thing called a project that has an admin. I do need your help. I'm always asking for feedback. I want to know how I can make these sessions better. So if you have any ideas, I'll put this link in the chat. But please just drop me a line and let me know what you think. A lot of my sessions come out of this form. That just goes to a Google form. It's anonymous. You don't have to share your email. Although if you want to join my newsletter, you can add your email. But this is really helpful for me. If you have topics you want to learn, maybe Tushar or Chad, you put down permissions, or anyone else in the chat, let me know those specific topics, and I can see about either doing a video or a live session on it. I want to make sure the stuff that I'm sharing isn't just useful for Rob. I want it to be useful for all of you as well. And the same goes if you have team members who work with you, you can add it there as well. And in our unofficial poll, most of us are not that comfortable with JSM permissions. I do have another poll, though, and this relates to how JSM is structured. And again, a 1, not at all the way up to a 4. And structure in this case refers to, do you know what a project is? Do you know what a request type does? What's a help center? So if you're familiar with those concepts and ideas, maybe you go a bit higher. But if you're like, Rob, I have no idea what you're talking about, maybe a bit lower. I always struggle on the order in which to share this and how do we approach it, because a lot of these concepts all kind of interrelate. It's hard to talk about what can a customer do without understanding what a request is. I started with permissions because I tend to think of who's using the system. And so now we're going to talk about how is the system structured? How did the people at Atlassian design it to support all these folks? And we're going to start with just a request. A request is entered by a customer, and it contains information in fields. So as you go in, you'll type in, oh, my name is Rob, and I sit in the San Francisco office, and my laptop broke, and here is my manager. Depending on what the admin has set up, you'll add more or less information. Most of us, if not all of us on this call, have used some kind of request form in some kind of system. It's what you have to type in and hit send to get help. Now, within Jira Service Management, the admins have the ability to create pretty much any request type they want. And so every request is part of some request type. That request type could be called password reset. It could be called policy question. It could be called legal sign-off, whatever your organization needs. And again, this is some of that flexibility of Jira. We're not stuck with a list of just only 10 things. Your admins can go and make up new ones. And this is where, as someone using JSM, if you start to notice new types of work coming in, let your admin know and say, hey, I think we need a different request. People are getting confused. Now, all those requests are bundled together into a portal. And we briefly saw this, and we'll go back and take a look at this. But that portal is where customers go to click on reporting a system problem or getting IT help. It is possible to have multiple portals. So you might have a portal for IT and a portal for HR and a portal for marketing and a portal and a portal and a portal. And this can be confusing, but all those portals lumped together are called a help center. So the biggest thing for a customer is a help center, and within it, you're going to have portals, and within that, you'll have requests. So thinking of big to small. Every project in Jira, we'll talk about that in just a second, has one portal, and the portal contains all those requests that someone might enter. Tushar, enlighten you about the portal thing. Could you get more specific, my friend? We will get hands-on with it, so if I can't get to it right now. But if you have any more specifics on what you're looking to learn about them. Now, when we think of so customers see the outside of Jira is one way to think of it. They see the portal. They see the help center. They see requests. Agents see the inside of Jira. So within Jira Service Management, you're going to see projects. Projects are just a container for work, and they are managed by those project admins. Projects also have their own settings. For example, each of the projects we see here might be a different type of project. Some are meant to help with service management. Others might be meant to help with project management. Other examples. Each of these also can have different permission setups. Each of these might have different features turned on or off. Each of these might have different people working in them. So keep in mind, as you work in Jira Service Management, you'll be working in one or more projects. And this for me was confusing. I didn't realize I was shifting projects, and then some things changed. So keep in mind, as you traverse projects or move between them, you may have access to different features, and you'll have different tickets that show up. Because every ticket, every work item exists within one project. So here's an example of a ticket that an agent sees. You'll notice it looks a lot different than that request form someone put in. So this is someone saying, I need help. This is not the best ticket. As an agent, I would be frustrated by this because I would have to respond and say, can you tell me more? But I can see I have all these different fields on it. And the fields that are displayed depend on the project. So my admin will go in and configure Jira to include the information they think I need to resolve different types of tickets. Now in Jira Service Management, these are almost always connected to a request. So a customer puts in a request. It makes a work item in Jira. Agents can also make work items, but typically it's the customer that's going to be putting them in. But as an agent, this is where I spend most of my time, managing and working on these work items, and then communicating with the customer somehow through comments or through something like a status update. Now, agents have a lot of tools that help support them. Again, we're paying for agents when we use Jira, so there's a lot to help them out. One of these tools is called a queue, and a queue is just a different way to collect work items. They are managed by project admins. So my project admin goes in and says, hey, I want a set of queues called executive support and another one called team priority. And that helps guide our agents. Because my agents, this will sound bad. They don't have to think. They just go to high priority and they answer all those. And that makes it much easier. They don't have to wonder, oh, should I work on this ticket or that ticket? They just go to the queue they've been told to open and they just do their job. Your admin will set up more or less queues depending on your needs. But if you're working in queues and they don't make sense, you think you need a new one, talk to your admin, because you as the agent can't change them. The admins can go in and change them. Liz, I love how you're guiding Tushar how to modify the portal. Making that change, Tushar, is a bit outside the scope of this training. I'll set up another live training for JSM admins, like a crash course for them. But please drop into Discord. I'll put the link in here for folks if they want it. And maybe, Liz, we could do a video or something in there, like a quick spin-up guide. Now, another important topic in Jira Service Management are called SLAs. I hated these when I first was told about them because I was told, hey, your job is to do an SLA. And actually, I'm going to put a quick poll. The majority of us are not familiar with JSM structure, which makes sense because I was never taught it. I learned it by doing, or rather by making mistakes, and eventually putting these trainings together so I could figure them out. So I'm just going to drop a quick poll on your thoughts around SLAs. I first learned about them as an agent, and it was tied to my performance. So I was expected, you have to meet your SLAs 80% of the time. This made them a scary thing. Really all they are is a timer for some action to be taken. Now this is an important thing to track, because if I notice that Tushar is working on work items and he's crushing his SLAs, he completes everything with 10 hours left, that might suggest either like he's a super good employee, but also we got to go look at our SLAs. Like, how is he going so fast? The opposite is true. If Rob is not doing well, if he's not meeting his SLAs, I need to go investigate. Are these problems more complex than we thought? Does Rob need training? Other questions. So SLAs are just another tool to help teams operate. Typically, they're formally agreed on with a customer. Atlassian has SLAs for its premium and enterprise products where they guarantee a certain uptime. They say, hey, if you use this product, you're going to get uptime of 99.9%. Tonya, I love this comment. What Tonya is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, my friend, these are formal contract things with external customers. For example, if I buy Jira, Atlassian will agree in a contract, you're going to get this level of service. We're going to guarantee accessibility to this amount. Internally, though, SLAs can be a little bit more wishy-washy. Like typically internal teams, IT wouldn't sign a contract with HR for certain uptime. So it's important that the leaders of teams sit down and figure these out and agree on what's okay and what's expected. They help agents because agents can look at their tickets and say, I got to focus on this one because it doesn't have much time left. And they also help customers because the customer can look at the SLA, or the customer can be told, hey, there's still 10 hours left. Calm down. So SLAs are an important tool, and we'll see them in Jira Service Management to help us manage and process things. Okay. I'm going to pop into Jira and just show us some of these before I talk about the ticket lifecycle. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know, Tonya. I do my best, but I don't want to put words in your mouth or steal, get it wrong. And so far, a third of us love them. 10% of us hate them, and the rest kind of don't care. That's kind of what I expected, honestly. I will start again at the portal, and I will zoom out. So the highest level structure in the portal is this thing. This is called a help center. Now, as an admin, I can go in and make changes to this. I'm not going to do it in this particular training. Sorry, Tushar. But, let me know in Discord or in the feedback forum if you want to learn more about configuring this thing. But what this is doing is it's reaching into Jira and grabbing every portal I have. Every project that has a portal is displayed here. And so this can be confusing for folks. If your Jira isn't managed well, this can be very big and very confusing. For example, if I need help and I see example JSM, I don't know what that is. So we want to make sure that whoever's managing this keeps an eye on it and keeps it nice and clean and make sure all these names make sense. Now, customers can search for help up here. So if they have a keyword, they can type it in, and Jira is going to do a couple of things for them. If it's been set up, it can pull in help desk articles, so it can deflect the ticket. It can say, hey, Tonya, instead of entering a ticket, go read this article. It can also direct them to portals that have those keywords or to specific request forms. So this is something else I did not know existed, like this search bar on the portal or help center. Please tell your teams that this exists. It will save a lot of headache. Down at the bottom, for each individual, it's also tracking what have you recently used. So if I put in a lot of tickets for account problems, it's just going to be recorded here, so it speeds me up a little. I need to go find... Once I go into a portal, though, it looks a bit different. I've got these groupings of requests. These are called request groups. And again, these are set up by the admin to guide someone down a path to help them get to the right spot to get the help they need. Admins can change these at any time. So if you think they're off or wrong or need help, talk to your project admin and they can help you out. Tushar, the articles that show up are all in Confluence. Right now, Jira Service Management doesn't have its own knowledge base. It'll link out to Confluence. There's one minor exception with playbooks. But every article you see pop up when I do a search here is going to live in Confluence at this point. And also, folks, if you do like this, hit that little like button. It's a thumbs up, kind of like right under my overlay thingy. Easiest way to support the channel. Yes, and again, we are looking at a sandbox, so all this is bogus bunk information. Once I open the request group, again, I get these request forms, and I'm going to put in a ticket. I'll pick a different one, IT help. Perfect. I need a summary. So I'll enter some fields, and I'll add some kind of description. Now the fields I see here are set up by my project admin, and I can also add attachments if I need to. But now I'll just send this ticket in. So as a customer, I've kind of completed what I need to do. So if I go back really quickly, in my ticket lifecycle, the first thing is a customer enters a request and includes whatever information they think is necessary. This can be lacking. If you've worked on Help Center, I'm sure you've run into cases where someone puts in a ticket and you're like, you got to tell me more. And this is where this setup of that request form is very useful. So please, talk to your admins, make sure they're set up if you're noticing missing information. The next step is the agent's going to go look at the request. So the ticket's been put in. I'm going to jump back in. And as an agent, I have access to do this. Customers can't do this. If I just click on this, the ticket number, ETMP9, it's going to open up Jira and give me the agent's view of that work item. So I kind of cheated. I went straight to this work item. I will show you queues, though. They live over here on the left under this queues dropdown. And I've got an all open queue. And this will show me, actually, all I know about this queue is the name. So hopefully it shows me all the open work items. But it gives me this list of columns of information. Now, as an agent, I can't change these columns. So something else that frustrated me when I started using Jira, I have to go to an admin if I want to rearrange these or add new ones. I can, however, search through just this queue in this little search bar. Or I can filter it by request type, or by status, or by a bunch of other things. So I do have some control over what's displayed in the queue, but just keep in mind as the agent, I can't change the columns. Oh, where did they all go? Come back. There we go. Now on the right, my admin has been nice and added the SLA. So as an agent, this is something I would use to figure out where do I start. Oh, I'll start with a ticket with the least time left. This one from February. That's been in here quite a long time. But, excuse me. The thing to keep in mind about queues, it's just like filtering a spreadsheet. Tickets can show up in multiple queues. So on the left here, I have a different list of queues. There might be an assigned to me, and that may or may not include the same list I see here, depending on the logic and how the queue was set up. But as an agent, I would just open this ticket, and then I would do what's called triage. Usually teams won't immediately start working on the ticket. They'll take a moment to review it, and they'll say, okay, am I missing any information? Do I have a good description? Is the name right? Are there fields on it that I absolutely have to have that are not filled in for some reason? And so that first agent to get it will perform this triage step, and then they might move the status. So we haven't spoken about this thing called a workflow. The workflow is there's a lot in here. The workflow is the series of statuses or steps a work item moves through in its life cycle. So here I see a visual representation of it. And you can always look at this by clicking on the status and view workflow. But this will show you how tickets can move. And I might drop another quick poll because I'm curious about folks. Very scientific method here. Now you'll notice there's some black lines in here. Those lines are called transitions. And those are what allow the work item to move between statuses. So one massive frustration I had, if there isn't a transition between statuses, you can't move between those statuses. For example, the closed status, the one at the bottom, it doesn't connect to pending. So this means I cannot move a work item from closed to pending. It's simple-ish, Tonya. And the reason I say that, one of the big challenges groups have with workflows, and as an agent I saw this, and as an admin, we tend to make them overly complex. The workflow isn't what I'm doing to the ticket. The workflow isn't how I solved it. The workflow is where is it in my process. And this is, again, beyond the scope of JSM for beginners, but for me, this one, fairly complicated. I've seen worse, certainly, but I've also seen much simpler. And we don't want to confuse our agents too much. So this is a workflow, but as an agent, I can click on the status, and you can see I can transition. I can move the work item into some other status from here. So I might look at this work item and say, you know what? I'm missing information. What steps have you tried? And I can just respond to the customer. I can click on reply to customer. I can hit save, and now that customer is going to get what's called a notification. So that customer is going to get an email or a little bell pop up saying, hey, there's been a comment on your work item. And this is how the customer and the agent interact. They use this form, which they can see and agents can have access to share and pass information between each other. Usually it's just going to be text or attachments that get put in here. Customers can also add other people to the request. So there's this little share button that's very easy to miss, but you might add another person to this, typically a manager, so they also get notified. They also get updates on what's going on. And this is very common. You'll see this list grow and grow and grow as more people have to be added. But that's how you can share the request. Otherwise, the request is essentially private to the customer and the agents. So this isn't publicly accessible unless you're on this shared list. One thing I will point out way up in the top, if you click on your profile and settings, you can see all of the requests you've put in. So Jira keeps track of any request where you're the reporter, you're the person who entered it. So if you forget a ticket, or if a year later, I could have sworn I asked about this, Jira keeps a running list for customers. So that's the agent reviewing the request. And again, they may perform some triage. They're going to use a queue. And now the agent's going to work on that request. They're going to go back and forth until the request is resolved. And there's a couple of things that can happen in that process. I'll go back to my customer. Oop. Come back, customer. Sure, I tried steps 1 to 4 in the guide. I'm making up an example here where there's some kind of guide this person would have followed. Now, one thing to note here, this will not necessarily notify the agent. So I can see that the comment has shown up, but unless my agent is monitoring their queue or monitoring that work item, they don't necessarily know that there's been a response. And there's actually one thing that I forgot to do, which is assign the ticket to myself. So here with one button, I can just push assign, and now I would be getting notifications about updates. Very commonly, agents will get buried in notifications. For example, emails. I kind of don't see them anymore. I'll be honest, that's probably a bad habit. I probably should really read those notifications. But as long as you're the assignee, you should get notified for actions like comments on your work items or if they're closed out. It depends on your settings, so talk to your admin if you're not getting those emails and you want them. But from here, I might say, you know what, I'm helping this customer. I'm going to put this work item in progress. And depending on the setup of your project, you might get a pop-up asking for more information. And this is where adding comments to the work item is really important. We have two options. We have a public comment, reply to customer. This the customer will see. And we have an internal comment. Only people with agent access can see. Or only people with access to the work item. This screen will see it. I use that internal note to keep track of what I've done. And you'll notice that internal note is a yellow color. So this is just visually showing me, hey, this particular comment hasn't been shared with the customer. The ones in white have. This internal comment's also really useful if you have to reach out for help. So if I'm working on this ticket and I realize I can't go any farther, I might say, hey, I'll @mention Lauren. Come on, Lauren. Ooh, they're not in here. I'll @mention Andrew. And now my teammate, Andrew, will get a notification, and Andrew can come in and help. Depending on my process, I can also do things like reassign the work item. So give it to someone else on my team to go work on. Exactly how you use this system will differ based on your team. So if you've got questions around, hey, when should I reassign it? Or when do I add a comment? I can provide general guidance, but really your team manager, your project admin will be the best person to go to ask those kind of things, just because every company will do it differently. From here, awesome. And you'll notice that my list of statuses has changed. This is because the workflow only allows certain transitions. This confused the heck out of me. I was like, why do they all disappear? Well, my nice Jira admin, the person who maintains all of Jira, has said it can only do these things. Great. From here, I'll just keep working on the ticket. Maybe I'll move it to pending. I'm waiting more info. And I would just keep taking action and working with my customer through the portal until the ticket eventually gets to a state of being resolved. Now, ticket resolution, there's two things to keep in mind. There's the status on the work item, and that status could be something like closed or completed or canceled. That's where it is in the workflow. There's something called a resolution, though, and that's what did we do to get it to that status. And these are two separate things. For example, when I close this thing out, if I say it's resolved, it could be resolved because there's a known error. Oops, I'm zoomed into the wrong spot. Whoops. It could be resolved because there's a known error. There's a hardware failure. It's done. We're not going to work on it. And this is an important data point because over time we'll start to see, hey, a lot of the tickets we close out, we're not going to do. Why not? Oh, it's because people are reporting them improperly. Okay, we need to go change that. What can we do to improve how we work? So please keep in mind that status is not the same as what you did to solve the work item. These are two separate things. So here I'll just say done, and I'll give a comment to the customer. Yay, it looks like they can log in again. And now up in the top, I'll have a resolved status and a done resolution. Oops, wrong screen. So on this particular work item, this ticket has been completed. It's now considered done, and the customer would also see those updates on their end. So here we are on the request, and I can see it looks like you can log in again, and the status is resolved. Now, depending on your setup, a customer could respond here and say, thank you, and that ticket could automatically reopen, or they might say, hey, you didn't actually fix my problem or something. So keep an eye out for tickets that reopen themselves, or for tickets where someone comments on them after they're closed. That's like the biggest annoyance for me personally, only because I then have to go in, find that ticket, and close it back out again. All right, folks, what questions do y'all have? We just kind of went through the workflow of a ticket at a high level, starting with customer puts it in and ending with agent successfully resolves it. Tushar's got a question. I believe resolutions are system-wide. I'll have to double check that. I don't think we have resolution schemes is the term I would look for. But folks, please drop in your questions, and a quick reminder, please hit that like button if you do like this. We've got 4 likes, about 40 folks. Would love to double that or even triple it. If we could get 12, that would be stellar. Okay, folks, we're going to continue. I don't have too much more. I'll wait for some questions. That was my sign to teleport back into my slides. I will share some learning courses I have to help extend your knowledge. The first that I'm going to link, this course covers an Atlassian certification for agents, and it's everything you need to know from Atlassian's standpoint on how to be successful using Jira Service Management as an agent. Someone working on the ticket. It includes concepts around IT service management, so generic ideas on how we should work. This link will take you to a course that includes a voucher for the exam. So if you want to become certified, this is the best bang for your buck you're going to get. Normally, just the exam is $100. This course, it's like an hour and a half of content, some quizzes, some other stuff, includes an exam voucher for $50. So if you want to get certified with the ACA 910, it's called, hit this link and go take this one. What's wrong with it, Chad? Now I'm self-conscious. No, Chad, she didn't. I'm still working on that. Your next option, I have a Udemy course. This is the same course without that exam voucher. So if you don't want to take the exam, this may be a good option for you. It's very similar content. I put a little bit more extra in that first one, but this one includes everything you need to know to pass the exam, but no voucher. So if you're looking for a cheaper option, something that's a little bit different, this would be where to go. And if your organization has Udemy Business, it's also included. So if you have access to Udemy Business, you can get this for free. Great deal. But those are just 2 options to continue learning. I do also have a lot of other YouTube stuff that's always going to be free. So check out my other sessions. I'll do live sessions for studying things like that exam, but other topics. Now I am self-conscious. Where? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Thank you, Chad. Oh, no. Okay, folks. I'm not a good technical copywriter. I've got a friend who offered to help, and I really need to take her up on that. Chad, that's been staring at us for an hour, and you only just called me out on it. All right, so other steps. Look for me on YouTube, but look for other people's content. The more perspective you can get, especially if you're considering using this, it is the host screen, Chad. That's not a slide. It's called the overlay. That's a new ad. The more perspective you can get, the more hands-on you can get, the more comfortable you'll be with the system. You can also reach out to me directly, robert@heen.tech, or find me on LinkedIn. Please feel free to direct message me, to follow me, to comment me, all the stuff on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to respond directly. If you have specific questions, and I'll drop my LinkedIn in here. But please reach out and keep engaging. You might decide, hey, Jira is not for my team. That's totally okay. But make sure you're making that decision from a place of strength and knowledge and not from one of not understanding how it works. I've mentioned the Discord community quite a bit. That's another spot you can go. Lots of great folks in there talking about this kind of thing. Tonya, it depends on what you want to do. Atlassian has a lot of different certifications, and I'm putting together a live learning just on what their certifications are. There are 3 or 4 ones that relate to Jira. There's one about Jira software. There's one about configuring Jira boards. There's one about ITSM and Jira Service Management. And there's one about JSM for agents. I'm recommending this one because it's the one I have created so far. I am going through and making a course for all of them, but it depends on what you want to do. This one is more on the concepts and best practice on how to use a help center through Jira. So it might be a little bit more suited for a more senior agent. However, you're going to get a lot of great knowledge in the one that I linked about JSM and how it works. Kima, only normal comment section in my new workflow. If you are using Jira software, which I'll quickly flip over, they renamed it. They don't call it Jira software anymore. But I mentioned this idea of projects in Jira. What am I looking for? And I'm looking at all the projects I have. If you look under this type column, you'll see some say service management, some say team managed software. Depending on the project type you're in, you might see different things on your screen. So for example, in this team managed software project, I don't have the ability to internally comment. All I'm going to see is comments. So if you're seeing this, you're likely in a Jira project versus a Jira Service Management project. But that's a great call out, Kima, and something that's insanely confusing to folks who don't know that difference. All right, folks, I do want to thank you for learning with me. I'll stay in the chat for another minute or two, but keep the questions coming, and please keep the likes coming. We're up to 6, which is awesome. But also, if you're looking for additional training, check out that QR code right under my head. That should take you to the course with the exam voucher or the links in the comments for the courses. Tushar, you don't. I have asked Atlassian around their naming structure. There's actually a separate designation you'll see on their website sometimes, just to confuse you. I look for the name though. So ITSM and JSM Foundations. Yep, you're only really going to see the ACA number, or ACP number, when you go sign up for the exam, unfortunately. Liz, that's a good call out. There's different flavors of projects. There's 2 main project types, Jira Service Management and Jira. And then within Jira, you might have business or software or something else. Kima, you're welcome, my friend. I'm glad I could help you out. But folks, I do appreciate it. This is going to be recorded, so you can come back to this exact link at any time and share it with folks or review it. Be on the lookout for more content, but please let me know what you want to learn. I definitely got a takeaway of like JSM admin, and I'm just writing that down so I don't forget, as well as JSM permissions, like a deeper dive. Chad, please help keep me honest, and Liz, the folks in the Discord. But please keep engaging. Please keep reaching out with me. You've got my information right here. I'm going to quickly just grab a screenshot, and then I will cut us all loose to an amazing Tuesday. Chad, that's not official yet. Let's not confuse folks. In October, I think. Thank you all again, folks. Really appreciate you learning with me. Be on the lookout for more, and I really hope to